Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Today we're going to be talking about combat and the Suicide Squad game. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing this topic up is because the Suicide Squad game is going to be made by Rocksteady, and for those of you who know, Rocksteady is pretty much that studio that brought the Arkham games, and these games pretty much have landmark combat that is likened even to games that were made years later down the road, and games that are going to be made afterwards are going to be compared, to or juxtaposed in the light of the Arkham games. And one of the even more critical things is the Arkham games, in regard to the ones that Rocksteady made, all became better in their combat. If you look at the combat sequences and the combat system from Batman Arkham Asylum all the way through Batman Arkham City, not Gotham City, and Arkham Knight, you'll see a very solid improvement every single time Rocksteady brought an iteration to the table. And so now that we have a Suicide Squad game, it is expected that being an action game, being a game around DC heroes or DC characters, we're going to be able to see some combat. And the face of the Suicide Squad is Harley Quinn. And one of the reasons you see Harley Quinn gameplay back and forth on this video regarding the footage is because many people may not have, pointed this out, but she is one of the more fluid combat characters in Batman Arkham Knight. The way that she was designed to fight, the way she was designed to maneuver and all that stuff was actually well done. It is quite distinct in its own way. Yes, there are a few similarities for the female characters with their takedowns, their blade takedowns, and a few things, but Harley Quinn had a few really cool aspects to her fighting that made her quite unique and stood out from Catwoman and Batgirl. Now, my expectation regarding the combat on this Suicide Squad game is that we're going to achieve, or Rocksteady is going to achieve, better quality than the fighting that's in Arkham Knight. I know it's hard to wrap my mind around how they're going to do that because, to be very honest, what they have in Arkham Knight, to me, is one of the best fighting systems that you have in perhaps an adventure game that uses melee combat. I know many people might say, well, consider Ghost of Tsushima. Yes, Ghost of Tsushima does have its own uniqueness, but Ghost of Tsushima emphasizes swordplay very heavily. So you can't really put both of them in the same box. But Arkham does have a system where some people have said, well, we don't really like this system because it feels like you're button mashing and all that stuff. But I disagree. There are a lot of timing elements. There are a lot of different XP, I would say valuability. Basically, the XP that you get is quite valuable for you to be able to unlock moves, unlock better finishers, unlock better combo takedowns, and be able to do some really cool stuff. And I'm hoping that, what they already have in place, that Rocksteady is going to be able to build upon it, not just kind of relegate it and throw it aside. I'm not saying that, but at least build upon it, so that players can, pretty much enjoy the good old fighting systems and then be able to benefit from what Rocksteady is capable of doing, because they've had about 5 years to innovate. Maybe this game, was probably in development maybe 2-3 years ago, and will probably finish its development perhaps in another year, perhaps in 2 years. We don't know. But at the end of the day, the combat systems are going to be quite critical. Now, not only are the combat systems going to be critical, the other characters and combat uniqueness is going to be another factor. So what I mean by that is, if you look at Batman Arkham Knight or Batman Arkham City or, Batman Arkham Asylum, you see the different characters that are there. When you're using them in a combat sequence, they have their combat uniquenesses as well. Even though they may have a lot of similarities, you'll find things in them that just set them apart, that make them stand out. And with the members of the Suicide Squad, we've already seen 2 of these members actually depicted in Arkham games in combat sequences. And these 2 are Deathstroke. I almost always want to confuse him with Deadshot. I don't know why. Deathstroke and Harley Quinn. Deathstroke we did see in Batman Arkham Origins, but mainly a lot of his fighting sequences was kind of a Robin, adaptation in a sense, but he was also pretty unique too. He had some really cool stuff that Robin doesn't have. If you look very closely at his combat sequences as well, his takedowns, some of the things that he did with his weapon, you could tell, okay, they were able to fashion a unique category for him. And so when you look at these 2 characters and you kind of put them together in the way they fight and the way that they actually carry out combat, you know that there's actually some meat to the possibility that we're going to have some really solid combat. And I'm one person that's definitely looking forward to this, because with the combat systems, I feel like this game is going to be able to compete and even win in the new space that we're seeing arise. And this new space that we're seeing arise is basically the new Marvel Avengers game that's also trying to fill this niche of a superhero type deal that's been taken by Square Enix to develop. If you think about it, I mean, think about the release again, or the day that this game was teased. It was teased on the beta release of Marvel Avengers. I mean, it was a Friday teaser, which is something that is, quite uncommon, but it's not unlikely, it's not improbable that anybody would tease on a Friday, but it's such a strange coincidence that on the private beta release of the Marvel Avengers, the very first day players would get their hands on another superhero game, Rocksteady decides to tease their own superhero game. So I think there's a statement being made there, an undertone. Maybe many people are not seeing it, or maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that is basically how I see it. And so with the combat of this so-called Suicide Squad game, it'd be really nice to see an improvement, even though I like I've said before, I don't see much that needs to be improved. At least though, something needs to be built upon what's already existing, and what's already existing right now is of the topmost class in gaming in regard to superhero games and melee combat. I know some people might cite Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is a different superhero. He does fight melee, but does have metahuman abilities, rather than, if you think about perhaps even maybe Harley Quinn, who's much more human, Batman, who's very human, and then, Superman will probably have some meta abilities that we can probably discuss in another video, because he's an alien. And then you also think about the other members of the Suicide Squad and their different unique characteristics. You gotta give it to the possibility that Rocksteady is going to bring out these characters and highlight them to showcase each individual and what they're basically about through their combat and their fighting, their techniques and their abilities. So this is something pretty cool to think about. I want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section. Do you guys think that Rocksteady has any room for improvement, or they just need to build upon what they already have? I guess these two unique questions will drive the conversation. Hopefully this game, we get to see some more stuff. We get to see some trailers. Hopefully by the DC fandom, we actually are able to see some gameplay. I mean, goodness, it's not out of the question to think about the possibility that there is some tangible gameplay available for this game right now, if you get what I mean. Perhaps maybe an alpha stage, or at least a depiction of what the combat will be in the preview, or perhaps a trailer or something. This is what I think fans are probably going to be looking forward to. But anyways, that's pretty much my thoughts on what I feel combat could look like in this game. Like I said, I would love to hear a comment in the comment section. I want to see what you guys do think. Thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys for watching the video, and hopefully we'll see in another one. Peace out.